I did see someone who is a very fast marathoner over in Asia. He chain smokes while he runs.
It's a different perspective too. So when you see somebody that, when I see someone that is not doing well, I immediately think something may be triggered in their brain health that they can't overcome.
But what they don't see is that they can see it differently, in the snap of a finger. Here we are in another episode of Embers Rising, and it's the same episode we tried to record just a moment ago. However, some button got pushed somewhere in the button sphere, and Wendy stopped recording, and as we all know, it's going to be a super boring podcast if it's just me rambling on. With a lot of dead space in between where you would have been saying those dynamic things.
Oh my gosh, we just went through so much, and so now, it's like a second version of this. But hey, let's start again. Welcome. And hey, Dave, it's your birthday week.
Hey.
How exciting.
It's my birthday week, and I
How
am
old are you
turning
gonna be?
15.
Are you in the
26? Oh, 62. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm
awesome.
A little bit of dementia kicking in there. So
That's not true. Yeah. No
62,
dementia.
I feel better at 62 today than I did when I turned 50.
You went on a training run this morning.
I went on a training run this morning. It was awesome. Right outside the back door. We're here in Idaho. And so outside my back door is
the river.
The river.
Gosh, it's gorgeous.
And so I saw a deer. I saw a blue heron eat a giant snake, which is very hard to do.
A water snake?
When you have no hands and just a beak trying to get it down that long neck. It was super cool to watch. Took a video of that. Some duckies, but basically I love nature. And we have a little bit of a fire morning this morning because there's a lot of fires in the western U.S. So when the sun comes out, it's a bright red ball in the sky. And it stinks.
Yeah. Okay, but before we talk about fire season, you were on a mission this morning on your run to find the moose that has been hanging out over in our river area. Any sightings today?
I love Idaho. They put out a big sign in the trail system
that actually had a picture of a moose.
Has a picture of a moose for those people that don't speak Mooseanese. And it's just be careful. A moose has been sighted, and they can be aggressive or dangerous or just big. Regardless of all of that, I am looking for the moose.
No signs today, though, because last week we looked and we saw a couple of signs, which we shared with you in the last episode. But any signs today?
I didn't see any signs, and I think what you're saying is moose poop. So I did not step in any moose poop. But when I see him, I am going to give him a big hug because I'm sure that's what he wants for his birthday.
He just wants you to hang on to those.
Yeah, he's like, oh, moose.
What are those racks called that they have?
Antlers.
Oh, they're just antlers. Okay, I thought there was like an actual official moose antler name for it other than rack.
Mantlers.
Moose antlers. Oh my gosh. Well, that's awesome. Dave mentioned fire season. We have been getting the brunt of fires this summer. My gosh, it's been so hard to actually enjoy our summer outdoors because it started about mid-July. After my birthday, we had the Durkee fire that came in from Oregon, the Cow Valley and Durkee fire that came in from Oregon, settled in the Boise Valley. Then the Park fire from the Chico area, Northern California, came into the Boise Valley. And now we have our own, I think it's called the Paddock fire, about less than 50 miles from us that's now settling in the valley. So it has been nonstop. And when I say nonstop, what is irritating is stepping out your front door and feeling and smelling. Your clothes smell like a campfire. Your hair smells like a campfire. Every day is just campfire. And recently, last week, we were getting a lot of ash in our backyard.
Right. Every time I go outside on the patio, I got to take my little portable vacuum cleaner and suck up all the ash. Because if you try and brush it off, it doesn't work.
It like smears like chalk or something. Yeah. I mean, it just smears on the sofas.
I've inhaled so much smoke, I might as well start smoking.
Oh my gosh.
Which reminds me, I did see someone who is a very fast marathoner over in Asia, and he chain smokes while he runs.
Wow.
And I don't recommend that, but apparently it works for him. He's running, 6 or 7 minute miles for a marathon. And lighting them just about end to end.
Okay, that's a little much. Wow.
Maybe we'll put that clip in there. We'll find it.
Okay, wow, that's
And it was on the internets, the interwebs, so maybe it's not true.
Yeah, you never know. Let's catch everyone up on our training. We are, training for this 50K. We've got 6 weeks until race day and 4 weeks of good work left, a couple of weeks of tapering. How's it going?
It's going pretty good for me. Apparently, I'm slower than Methuselah, and I'm consistent though, right? And so I'm looking at the cutoff times at all the aid stations. I'm like, I'm going to blow through all of that. I'll be fine. I'll be able to sit around and eat Otter Pops in the heat. And
you may be walking, but you will make it.
Yes.
No doubt. Me, on the other hand, it's been a struggle. So last week on Thursday, I was stretching and doing my foam roller, and I twisted strangely to get off the foam roller, not paying attention, and I pulled something what I thought was in my lower back. Actually, it was very deep in the performance muscle, which is your deep muscle below the surface glute muscle. It kind of wraps around to your hip, and it feels incredibly strained. So it just felt my entire back just seized up. And my hips have been tight, and I have been doing hip exercises, mobility work, and band work. So it's really surprising that this pull happened, but I have not been working it out. So I have not been, putting a tennis ball in there and using our, what's the thumper that we have, Dave?
The thumper.
The thumper. We call it a thumper. I know it's one of those tools that...
Like Theragun or
the
something
Theraguns
like
that everyone
But you
uses.
hate the gun word.
Yeah. So I do. But anyway, yeah.
This is a teachable moment for couples at this point when your partner has a glute injury. The first thing you should do is offer to rub it. And I'm not sure, but it could be good for you.
It's an option.
Yeah. It leads to other
I love that you jumped in on that.
Athletic activities. So
wow, I can't even focus. Okay. Wow, that's just so much, Dave. Wow. It's just
well, you don't have that setting on your Enduro watch, right?
It's just like
okay, it's time. Go.
Glute activities lead to other things. All right.
Well, you're blushing a little bit.
I know that you all have an imagination, so you can only imagine where that's going. Anyway, so that pull strain led me to jump into therapy, grabbed a massage, did red light therapy, band work, the tennis ball, did everything that I could, joint muscle, therapy creams. I jumped on my grounding mat, which has PEMF and photon therapy. Wow, it's been a lot, but and I took a little bit of time off, cross train, grabbed a bike ride. And then the next day we went on a shorter run, like a 2.5 hour trail run. And it was so sore. It kind of worked itself a little bit down, but then my knees were still hurting. Later that afternoon, as I was a little fragile with my body, and things were just a little shaken up, I did something literally twisted weird in my room and pulled something in my bedroom, pulled something very strange behind my knee now. So I'm like, if you've seen a recent post about me giving up, it's like one of those days where yesterday I was just feeling, wow, okay. So if you're out there challenged with whatever you're challenged with in your, athletic journey, please share it, because I would love to feel supported out there, because sometimes it's so hard when not every run is a great run and not every training day is a great training day, and you show up and you put the time in, and I think you showed up for yourself, just knowing that you went out and tried no matter what, even if you had to only give it 10 minutes, 30 minutes and walk away and get back in your car and take off again. But we really put some effort into it, and I'm still working through it. It's better, definitely. I mean, the pain level is down, but I'm still working through the tightness.
You might start an Insta channel, strange ways to hurt yourself, right? Like, and go through them. There's a lot of content in the injury, area, and people may not know how they could actually hurt themselves while sitting down in the closet.
It's just one of those things. Let me tell you, this just kind of rolls into, yes, we are doing good with the training. It's just definitely not nearly where I would like to be. I would definitely like to be on feet for at least, 8 to 10 hours a week. And we are not doing that. I'm not getting that in. I don't know what your schedule is, David, but I am not getting that in at all. I'm toggling somewhere between maybe 5 and 7 hours a week, if that.
Yeah, I'm the same.
So yeah, I'm disappointed in my training. I really
I'm
hope
supposed to be doing more.
Yeah.
Oh, right. ABT, always be training.
Man. But that kind of ties into, if you really know me, I have a word that's matched with my self, and it's called the power of resilience. And I would say I am one of the most resilient persons you'll meet. So many things have tried to take me down over the years, and this episode is going to be so good because we are getting into brain health and relationships. So I'm really excited about that and the power of resilience, not only in our athletic ability and training and expectations that do happen when you have to have setbacks and then you have to move through it. I know that there's even some runners recently that I was reading on one of the Facebook groups that I'm part of, that broke their ankle like right before a big race. Have been training for like 14 weeks. I mean, how disappointing is that? I am so sorry to hear that. So anyway, I just want to say the power of resilience is so strong. So keep always keeping on and be inspired by yourself to show up no matter what. And like Dave said, keep moving. When you get frustrated and feeling down, the best thing to do, no matter the pain, is try to find a way to find movement. Obviously if it's broken, you've got to take some, you can't get much, movement when it's broken, but then you can move through that, once you're moving through that. So, band work, anything to get your mental headspace. In fact, Dave was so cool yesterday because he knew I wanted to ride like a 3-hour ride. He was like, hey, let's just at least jump on the mountain bikes and do a cruise. Mentally, it did help me, make a shift, because I think there's a place in the resilience area that you need a mental shift. I was feeling really down, and I did find meditation for me does really help make a mental shift, but it's still not perfect. You still need support and other ways to uplift you. And we're going to get into those.
And we don't always need to be pushing it on a bike ride. I loved yesterday's ride. 50% of me got to be with you, and 50% of me got to look for the moose. So,
it was a win-win.
Yeah, now the truth comes out. Right? Like,
Man.
I know he's down by the river here somewhere, but one of the things that I think you've got to take some rest and relaxation to stay strong. But once you get strong, you need to do the work to stay strong. Get strong, stay strong. Because when you quit, right, that's when stuff sort of creeps up on you, and it is so hard to get back. And I'll say happy birthday to myself because I feel incredible at 62.
Happy birthday, David.
But when I was moving just in my 50th birthday, I was going through this thing where I had to lose 60 pounds, right? And that's why I say I feel so much better today, because that was a struggle. It sucked. I did not get strong. I did not stay strong. And that shit catches up with you. And it does somewhere in the ages of around the 40s, right? Like all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself and you say, uh-oh. Not everybody, but that's what
Well, this was a very long, story chat with you. I guess us being from Hawaii, we talk a lot of story. So anyway, thank you for putting up with this. But most importantly, we want to thank you to our listeners for pressing play today, because it takes an enormous amount of action to press play on one of our episodes. Wherever you are listening to this, driving to now, school is starting, so maybe you're dropping kids off, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're working out at home, maybe you're on your own run, maybe you're riding your bike, maybe you're at the on the treadmill. Whatever it is, thank you so much to our listeners for pushing play, because pushing play really helps us grow and know what you guys are looking forward to hearing more about, as we're really focused on just helping those embers rise and fuel the flame really inside. And that's where I come to say today that we are so excited to talk about something that affects all of us, and it is our mental health. And this impacts our relationships at a very deep level. So our minds play a very big role in how we see the world and how we connect, with each other in mental health and the people that we obviously care about. So, whether you're going through good times, tough times, crises, challenges, whatever, it's important to understand how your mental state really influences your relationships around you. So by being aware of this, you can also build stronger, more resilient connections.
For sure. And health is one of our...
And help those, who matter most.
Health is one of those highest values for me, for us. But it doesn't just mean physical health, right? There's mental health, there's emotional health, there's
totally
spiritual health, there's financial health, there's all of those elements that go into health. And yeah, it's one of the reasons we became certified brain health coaches.
Okay, but before you go down that road, I have to take a pause because I know Dave is so excited to tell this story, and I have such a huge story to share with this, but I have not gotten into even shout outs. And this has been like, we are trying so hard to manage the shout outs here. There is so much, and I'm just going to get through a few of them because they are important. I mean, this is just from this last week of what's coming in, and I do want to get this out because it's important that you are our community and you are helping us and supporting us along. And I just love that. So just give me a quick minute, Dave, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, no, I'm excited, but I'm excited to hear this too. But I don't have the computer screen, so
I know,
I have
I've
this little loss of control
so
here. I have
like,
my notebook, which doesn't have the shout outs on it.
So I made a post. It was called Married or Single. These tips apply. And I see some shout outs. These are from... I'm not sure, but to me, it looks like this is Instagram. So Uprooted Traveler, awesome follower. Thank you, Uprooted Traveler, for saying adventuring together is definitely a super fun way to bond and build lots of core memories. Now, I've seen a lot of your posts out there, Uprooted Traveler. You guys are amazing as well. So yes, absolutely agree.
I follow those guys too. They're incredible. Yeah, they always look like they're doing something.
They're amazing. I mean, you guys have amazing.
Where are they recently? Do you know?
I didn't check this week. I don't know. But I know that you guys do really amazing things. So thank you, Uprooted Traveler. Big shout out to the real Sarah Bundy. I love that. Who says these tips sound like they could be really helpful for strengthening any relationship. So thank you, the real Sarah Bundy. And then I want to say putts and penalties. So true, 100%. So thank you, Putts and Penalties. Awesome. That's also a couple, by the way. They have a really cute profile icon of them together. So very cute. Thank you so much for that. And then Shiv, he says, so inspiring, as also, I believe this is LinkedIn. Shiv, and I don't know how to say your last name. Rawat? So anyway, thanks, Shiv. You're on our team. We appreciate you. That's awesome. And then we had another post about believing in something extraordinary that will happen to you this year. And I loved some of these. Our.whereabouts, Instagram. I want to believe in this, but it isn't always so easy. I hope that this year will be my year. Man. Okay. Our.whereabouts. We are rooting for you. Whatever your challenges are, we are rooting for you. I have seen you guys have incredible. This is also another couple. David, I don't know if you're following them, but this is also another couple. And they do incredible trips around the world. But we are so supportive of what you guys are going through and whatever your journey is. Man, we hope this is your year too. You know, you still have a good, solid 5 months to get through. Let's go. So we're rooting for you. Hannah she says, absolutely don't compromise on your dreams. Keep chasing them. Thank you, Hannah. Power. And then proactive marketing. Absolutely. Keep chasing those dreams without any compromises, with a double hands up. Thank you. And then, of course, Uprooted Traveler back again. We still got a third of a year left. Let's go. Yes, we were just talking about that. So, woohoo. Yes, Uprooted Traveler. Absolutely.
I think they're going to have to get an Embers Rising t-shirt or hat, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe
we were
reach out and
about that.
ask them, are they hat people or are they
are you hat
t-shirt
people, t-shirt people? Okay, yeah.
Or what other sort of swag should we be developing?
Yeah, we've been talking about a lot of merch coming out. So it's just something we can't release quite yet, but it's in the work. So we've got some cool things coming up.
Hopefully I get one first.
Yeah, me too. Then we had a post about 3 key habits to boost your relationship as a couple. And I believe this may be from Facebook. And it says, let's see. I can't really see the icon very well, but I think it's Robin. And I think it's a guy. Robin, Ayme. He's an empowering leader who does a lot of discipline with mindset mastery. And so he says he loves the game-changing habits for relationships. Starting the day connected sets a positive tone. How can we ensure consistency in these habits, especially when life gets busy? Man, that is
awesome. So sounds like definitely a mindset coach, right?
Yeah.
And it reminds me of some of the things that we just believe in, right? And that is, beliefs are really who you are, right? But your routine is who you become.
That's true.
And that is
true.
That is a massive mindset shift. So invest in the routines and tread lightly on the beliefs.
But it is hard. He's saying how can you ensure the consistency in these habits when life gets busy? And I have to be honest. I mean, sometimes you just can't. There is some things that happen in life that just, sometimes we go through crises and challenges and rougher times, and the habits do get set aside, and it is tough. We had some challenges last year that cut into a lot of those habits of ours. We really tried to maintain, but it is tough.
Super challenged our mindset in a lot of ways.
For sure.
And it's hard to remember, right? Like I try and live by the motto that we're just biological beings having like this biological experience on this planet. And most of the time you just can't control the stimulus that's coming in. Like things happen, change happens, events happen. But you do have a certain amount of control over the response, right?
Yeah.
And if you live your life that way, you can adjust very quickly how you're responding to something bad. Not that it's not still bad. It's just you don't want to get quagmired in like your grief or your depression or your whatever. And it's hard as an athlete, right? Because when you get an injury like you have now, you're frustrated. And the frustration response, is something you can control, but it's also very overwhelming.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's when the power of your mindset has to come into play to never give up, show up for yourself, keep moving, keep positive, be optimistic, reach out to your support, find things that can support your mental health. And this is such a great segue into this episode. That's why I wanted to do these shout outs. So I can't wait to get into this. I've got one more. There was a post I did about, I love to do signboards. And there was a post that I did about just a little reminder about don't wasting your energy chasing people who hurt you. It's because hurting them won't help you heal. And that was the post. And so I believe this is from LinkedIn, maybe Facebook, but it looks like LinkedIn. Denise Deeft. Does that sound familiar? A customer care manager, relationship champion and nurturer. I love that. She says, Wendy, it's like giving yourself permission to let go of what's weighing you down. Totally agree, Denise. I love the quote. Keep being you and watch how the right people naturally gravitate towards your light. It's like attracting your own personal sunshine. Absolutely agree, Denise. Thank you so much for that. That's such a lift. That makes me feel so good because so many times when somebody hurts you, the first thing you want to do is hurt them back. And sometimes in a way that they don't even know that you are hurting them, like behind their back, you want to like do something. Because that's what we feel like as a human being. It's like we're coded to that, like, I'm going to get you back, But that doesn't help.
Yeah, it doesn't
yourself.
help. And let's go back to you've got complete control over that response, right? So you've got no control over that stimulus, whatever they did to hurt you, right? The hurt just came.
Yeah.
But you've got then that cognitive ability to think, all right, how am I going to respond here? And, a lot of chemicals, body chemicals come out and make you want to lash out. But is it the best use of your time? And is it an example of being your highest and best self? Sometimes you just need to take a deep breath and think it over a little bit.
Or completely let it go. Yeah. And I think letting it go is probably one of the biggest things, even though it's one of the harder things to do. I want to share another one because this kind of ties down into this. I believe this is on LinkedIn. Heather Wild says, truth. When we focus on revenge, it's just keeping them front and center in our minds. It's impossible to heal like that. Thank you, Heather, for saying that. It is absolutely so true. When we have that person in our mind and we want to like backstab or have a revenge moment, why are they in the front of our minds? That needs to be like, let go.
Yeah. And it's sometimes sounds a little cliche, right? But that revenge, it's like a poison. Only you're the person taking the poison, wishing the other person would die. And it makes absolute no sense, especially since the other person has probably already moved on and they're not thinking about you at all. Yeah. So now you're consuming your time and your life and your energy with something that isn't even relevant to them. And it's not going to move you forward. It's usually going to move you backwards.
Right. She also has another comment that says, the trick is finding what works for us to let it go. I've tried so many different modalities. Most helped a little, but a few of them really helped a lot. I just tried to let it go on my own, and I'd still be stuck. A lot of us feel the exact same way. If I had given up when some modalities didn't move the needle much, I'd still be stuck. If we want to be free, we have to stubbornly commit to healing I love that, Heather. That's awesome.
That's awesome. That was a comment.
Yeah.
Right? That should be a master class.
Yeah, that's so good, Heather. Thank you so much. I mean, so many times so many of us, all of us have experienced some sort of hurt. And the first thing we want to do is do that backstab. And it's really hard to heal from it. And so she's so right. I mean, a lot of it just stays in the forefront of our mind, but you really do have to make a commitment to heal from it. Like, you want it gone from your life.
I hope she hears this. I'd love to hear her modalities, how she moves that through. Maybe she wants to be a guest. But one of the things that we do actively is to meditate, right? And meditate and go into that space where you just forgive that person and, ask them to forgive you for whatever they may have perceived that you've done. Because usually it's a two-way street, right? Relationships always are.
Yep.
They've got their story. But I have found in a lot of instances that allows me to sort of like take the heat off of it. And it, if it was egregious, it doesn't mean you forgive them. I mean, it doesn't mean it's absolved, right? Whatever they've done is absolved. It just means it's no longer in the front of your mind and they're forgiven, move on.
Yeah. And sometimes just taking the action to do other things and not thinking about it. I know that Heather just said she's tried to not think about it and it's still there. I totally agree with that. But for me, what has helped me to move on is just doing other things, just continually try to get away from the hurt and the pain. That's the best thing. Anyway, I thank you. I just want to take a moment to do the shout outs. I think they're so important because you guys are our community. You are friends, and we totally respect that you're here with us. And we have so many more that I just can't get to. It's something that my team member Jesse and I are trying to manage, is the amount of comments coming through here in the podcast, through Instagram, LinkedIn, all the channels. So we are working through this. So if you haven't had a shout out yet, please be patient with us. We have so many more. We just don't want to take up the entire episode with shout outs. But it's so important that you hear us also let you know how important you are to Dave and I, because we love you and we love that you're following us and you're supporting us and all that we do out there to help us all be inspired to fuel the flame inside. So let's dive in, because Dave is just itching to talk about mental health and and our brain health, because it's so important. But before we do that, Dave, I did pull some of the stats up, and I just want to share this because I think there's some key statistics that really weigh heavy on mental health and relationships, because mental health is such a huge topic. It goes all the way into, the suicides. I think I read a stat that there were 700,000 global suicides a year right now in the age range of 15 to 29. That is huge. That is huge. So I want to kind of rein that in to really focus on mental health for ourselves and relationships, because I have a stat here that talks about nearly 1 in 4 adults in the United States, which is like 23%, by the way, have experienced a mental illness in the past year. This is relevant of today, by the way. Youth depression. 1 in 5 teens, age 12 to 17, have had major depressions already. They shouldn't be having these major depressions. And this is in the last year. And so and this is with over half of them not receiving treatment, not receiving some sort of treatment. And then relationship struggles, another key statistic, ties right in. About 30% of people with mental health issues cite relationship problems as a major factor. So mental health tying it to relationship problems. That's why we're here, Dave. I love this. This is so important. And then access issues is a big thing. I went as far as to research how I could think about all of us getting access to something that's helping us. And the stat that I pulled today was nearly 6 million adults with mental illnesses are uninsured, and there's a significant shortage of mental health providers. That is huge. That's a big problem for our society, And I mentioned suicide, but another stat I pulled in was nearly 13 million adults reported serious thoughts of suicide, with recorded high suicide deaths back in 2022, which was just a couple of years ago.
Right. I think a lot of that
now that was
escalated
through COVID.
Through COVID, for sure. I don't think anybody really realized how important community actually was to your mental health and your well-being until it was all taken away from you. And all we did was Zoom meetings and wear masks and be weird.
Right. And I know that those statistics are really keyed for mental health and relationships, but I do want to tie in the mental health as adventure athletes, because we are that. And there are about 35% of elite athletes experience, and I think the number's higher, mental health issues, from stress to eating disorders to burnout to depression to anxiety. And I think for endurance athletes, it's way higher. And the impact of injuries is at 45%. I was reading this stat today about 45% of athletes experience anxiety and depression following a severe injury, limiting their ability to continue training. Huge. Which, comes back to what we're talking about is mental setbacks when you have injuries, physical setbacks, and then sleep and recovery. This ties into our mental health. 50 to 70% of athletes report sleep and disturbances during training and competition periods. Totally makes sense.
Of course, yeah.
And that affects us too. We have our weekend training. We set a timer. We're either up at 3 or 4 a.m. preparing to get on a 5:30 a.m. run. It does.
And for whatever reason, after long runs, anything over 2 hours, between that 2 and 4 hours, usually my sleep that night is disturbed. Who else has this weird restless leg syndrome thing that happens after you run like that? Like, I just can't control it. They're just twitching. I can't get comfortable. I'm like, settle down there. And they're like, nope, just the nerves are just firing. I'm like, great.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to share those statistics because there is a widespread mental health issues. And I think it's important to just be aware of that, not only within our society, but also in the athletic community. When you are an athlete and you are performing, or you're just, enjoying your time at whatever level, know the importance of addressing your mental healthness is a part of your overall wellness. And it's something that's overlooked because you do put the time into getting nutrition and your sleep and the physical training, but a lot is disregarded and not thought about for mental health. So I'm ready to dive into this, Dave, if you are, because we have such a great story to share.
I mean, mental health has been something that has been in my life since the day I was born. My dad was a psychologist. So as we sat around the dinner table or whenever it was, he would just talk about his work and what was going on. And so it made me keenly aware of the challenges, the problems, the stuff that was going on out there, the struggles that people had, because we didn't really have that internally in my household when I was growing up. So I was sort of shielded from that.
I grew up in a household that was all positive thinking, and positive thinking only goes so far. So there's like the Zig Ziglars, the Brian Tracys, the Jack Canfields. Who else am I missing of the great legends out there, Dave? This was a household that I grew up. However, that only goes so far. When you hit rock bottom and you are tapped out of positive thinking, you have to go, what's really going on in your brain? And that takes us to the next level. By the way, we've put together a checklist, action steps that you can definitely grab from here, from this episode, even if you need to scroll ahead and you don't want to hear our stories, because we want you to be able to walk away from this episode knowing you have tools that you can actually start getting some help or try of maybe no matter where the scale of your mental health may be. Severe or non.
And we were talking about mindset. We were talking about, that positive thinking. And that is all well and good. But it can be a really dead-end road if you don't apply it, right? Because you need to then take action and learn some skills. Skills pay the bills, right? But those skills, they take you from thinking about something to knowing it to actually doing it and applying it to your life.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have that next step, it can be a hamster wheel of always positive thinking. Yeah.
I do want to backtrack and just share a quick little story with everybody, because when I was back mountain bike racing, this is kind of where it started for me. I had a very serious crash on a mountain bike race and ended up having a TBI, traumatic brain injury. And that TBI has affected me my whole life and still including today. So what had happened with that immediately is my brain was swollen in my skull, and there was options of reducing the swelling. Back then, it was an option to get your skull drilled in to release the pressure. because I was having 24-hour migraines. So no matter what you take, Advil, Tylenol, whatever the over-the-counter was, or even stronger drugs, the migraine wouldn't go away. So it was more time for me to get the migraine to go down, but now it triggered an onset of migraines that started. First of all, I had to stop racing mountain bikes, which was a love of mine, and I didn't race anymore after that crash because it was so severe. And I had other crashes previously, but not that severe. This was a pretty big crash for me. And those migraines continued into my years, even living in Hawaii. And then they were triggered by different things, whether it's a physical migraine or a heat-related migraine or stress migraine, time of the month migraine. It got so severe that I was really concerned that there may be something else going on in my brain. And I didn't have any pictures. When you don't have pictures, there's no way you can really know. I did have an MRI, but the only thing we could see, it wasn't a blood flow picture. It was just a picture of structural. So for the MRI, it was just like, yep, your brain's swollen. We could see that.
And then fast forward to a few years ago, when we were with Brendan Burchard at an event, and he had one of his keynote speakers, which was Dr. Daniel Amen, who is the brain health guru.
Immediately fell in love with him.
Yeah, and he was talking about his work for the NFL in diagnosing, treating, and recovering players that had TBIs through brain injuries through something called the SPECT scan. Yes. And we were immediately drawn in, like it just resonated so heavily at that moment that we're like, Wendy's got to get a brain scan.
I've got to get a brain scan. I didn't even know what it is. In fact, I'm just going to type this in. So it's not actually saying the name of what the SPECT scan is, but it does stand for something. I on their website, Amen Clinics, by the way, is where we went. So that triggered me to the story of going in to getting my brain scanned at Amen Clinics in, I want to say Orange County, California?
Yep, Mission Viejo.
And we went in, we did 2 scans. There's an active brain scan, and then there was a non-active brain scan. It did have a dye. So I did have a dye so they could see. And what we're looking for is blood flow, what's going on. It was very interesting. Oh, I can show you my report from that. I can show you the picture of my brain because it was pretty amazing coming back to seeing that, what was going on. But not to get in super depth with that because there was a lot going on that you can get beyond just the SPECT scan. But what we did find out was there were some things that I could do supplemental wise for my mental health as well. So it's I was mentally health challenged in the way that I was just in pain all the time with the migraines, and it was really frustrating to just not know what's going on. The good news is I didn't have anything like a cyst or anything that was the pressure had gone down after years.
A big dead area.
There wasn't a dead area. Things were some areas were overactive. There were areas that just overthinking a little bit too much in certain areas. So there were things that I could work on through different lifestyle and then supplemental changes. So I really started to integrate those. But Dave and I were so stoked about getting the SPECT scan that they actually offered.
We asked. It was like, how do we learn all of this
how do we
so
learn,
that we can move forward? And they said, well, we've got a brain health coaching program.
Certification program.
Are you guys doctors? And we're like, what? We're in marketing. They're like, oh, and he's like, oh, let's talk then. But yeah, we signed up for their brain health coaching program sort of naively because
it was way early on.
There wasn't anyone else in that training that took me 6
Everyone
months.
Everyone else was MDs.
Yeah, they had all these credentials behind their name.
And then there's Dave and I.
And then there we are. Like, well, we'll figure it out. But
it was a lot of training.
The interesting thing about the SPECT scan, the brain scan, is they've done, and I don't want to misquote the number, but over 1 million of these things, and they've been able to use AI to find the commonalities of what a specific situation that you may be experiencing in your life, and look at the brains, right? And it's like, oh, well, these 10,000 brains all have this particular energetic, blood flow, whatever it is, impact in their brain. And they have come up with a way to actually diagnose that and and help it.
Well, I was going to say there's 3 really big things that the brain imaging does with a SPECT scan, and I'm on their website right now reading it because this is something that we were trained in. I help identify 7 types of anxiety and depression, 7 types of ADD and ADHD, and 6 types of addiction. And I think those things, seeing it in your brain and actually physically getting a picture of your brain of what's going on, knowing this critically helps you know what to do with a picture instead of throwing darts with your primary, with your specialist, or with your psychiatrist. You now have a picture of what's going on and that you can share with your physicians and actually make a better choice of how to help you heal. Another thing I love about Amen Clinics is they have a motto of do no harm to patients first. And I really resonated with that motto when they were helping me. So I'm super passionate about brain health and Amen Clinics and how they've gone about it. And Dr. Amen and Tana Amen ended up launching a show called The Brain Warriors Way at the very beginning. Dave and I were part of that. We flew down. We were sat in the room on one of their filmings. I think it was for PBS at the time. Right. And we were at one of the live shows that they were filming.
And they even featured part of, it was
our story.
My story.
I think it was your
right?
story, on PBS.
So that was cool. So there's a lot that can be done from a mental health standpoint. Let's just circle back to their work with TBIs and brain injuries, which downstream from that create a lot of psychological problems, right? And it did with the NFL players. But what they found, like any injury, there are certain protocols, certain ways of recovering that, of healing it, and just sitting around being depressed and drinking isn't one of them, right? You actively need to take part in the physical therapy. It's like physical therapy for your brain. And I think one of the things that really attracted me, and a lot of people ask me, like, so what is brain health coaching, right? And you go,
right,
right? Because there's so much. But I've been able to distill it down to the fact that it allows you to become both the coach and the player simultaneously. And what that does is it allows you to play at your highest level all the time. And so it's not being a doctor, it's knowing how to recover and, more importantly, how to prevent, right? Prevention is one of the biggest things in mental health. If you're hitting a lot of the things that you need to do, you're less likely to go down the path of some sort of mental illness, right? I understand there are a lot of things that are very chemical, in terms of mental illness, schizophrenia and things like that, that doing a lot of push-ups are not going to help. But by the same token, so much of brain health, it has to do with your lifestyle and eating the wrong foods,
nailed it,
breathing the wrong air, drinking the wrong water, not exercising, like all of those things that we're barraged with every single day. And, ramming your head into,
somebody
another
else.
human being at high speed is not a great
Not
way
recommended.
to not end up with some, mental illnesses. And it's sad because, we all look up to the football players and what they do, but when they retire, so many of them go down a dark road.
Or are the ones that are homeless on the streets, and you don't recognize it.
Or they fit into that suicide statistic, right, which is not cool. And it's not necessarily their fault because they have an injury that's just not visible.
It's a different perspective too. So when you see somebody that, when I see someone that is not doing well or that may be homeless, I immediately think something may be triggered in their brain health that they can't overcome. Probably it's a mental health issue that they need to get to the next level. We're not saying, hey, go out and get a SPECT scan. Everyone needs a SPECT scan because they are expensive. I don't know what the insurance options are today. We paid, cash back then. I don't even remember what it was, but
with insurance, it's always the diagnosis. But I will pitch out there, if you're listening and this resonates with you and you're like, I'd like to explore Amen Clinic SPECT scan.
Yeah, DM us.
DM us, because as brain health coaches with that organization, we can get you
a discount.
A discount.
I want to say it's like 10% or something.
Yeah, it is. it's 10%. And there's no discount code. There's no.
Yeah, you just have to use our names. So.
Yeah.
The other part is if you're like, hey, that sounds amazing, but there's just no way I even have a budget, check out Dr. Amen's book. He's got a ton of them. Just reading about it, what you can do, and maybe for your instance, might help. But again, I don't want to make this just about SPECT and Amen clinics. I want to tie it back into mental health and relationships, because I want to give you guys some actionable steps that you can do to improve where you may be at today, because it does matter. And your emotions and where you're moving through in your space of life while you're on this planet, it matters to you, your family, your loved ones around you, and for yourself, because you're living with yourself. You're living with this thing up here that's, talking to you all day long. So your brain actually really matters. Your mental health really matters. And, not every day are we happy in a great mood. There's a lot of things that set us off that we're just like, ooh, that went me. I was at a 10 awesome, and I'm at a negative 15 now, So
Dr. Amen always says, don't believe every stupid thing you think, right? And that's because as a human, we have like 70,000 thoughts a day that go through our head. And most of them are completely fabricated, right? They have no basis in reality.
That ties into what he likes to say, make sure you're conscious of the ants, 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 automatic negative thoughts.
The automatic negative thoughts.
Yeah. So we'd always think about that when we're like, okay, this is just a repeat of automatic negative thought? But when you catch yourself, and that's when you know that you're starting to make a gain, because you're like, I was just coaching somebody that was going through a really hard time with a relationship, and they were caught in a loop. And it was like, as soon as they started catching themselves looping on the automatic negative thought is when they started making the turn. Now today, they're so much better, but it was like quite a journey to get there, but catching that that automatic negative thought really helps make the turn, when you go down that level.
And negativity takes a ton of brain power, right?
It does. Oh my gosh.
And that's why your brain is smart, and it starts to, we call myelination of the neurotransmitters in your brain. Basically, they say, neurons that fire together wire together. So if you're depressed, if you're angry, if you're anxious, if you're frustrated, if you're any of those things, on a daily basis, your brain actually wires itself to make that easier, so it's more efficient, right? So you're not taking so much energy, because your brain takes the most energy in your body. And so it's this loop, right? And you have to somehow break that connection and retrain yourself. And so just know, there are ways of doing that. To break the cycle. And it becomes worse. I'm turning 62, right? It's funny, but people my age, the vast majority of them are fixed. And they're fixed because their brains are like hardwired to think one way. And
it causes a lot of stubbornness.
So you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Like when you tell your mom and dad something and they just are not going to make a budge. And I'm like, Dad, why would you drive 5,000 miles to go all the way to Nebraska and back to the West Coast and then down to the bottom of California? Instead, just buy a flight. But there's just no way of changing that brain wire. No, we're going to do it.
That fixed idea.
Even if my car breaks down.
I've thought about it for 4 years, and I'm doing it. But
I want to tie this back to why it matters, because your feelings and your mental health affect how you talk and connect with others. So if you're feeling down or stressed, it can make communication even harder. And I think that's really important. So what do? You need to start paying attention to how you're feeling. I know it sounds so basic, but you need to start paying attention. There are apps that have helped. There's a couple that I have found interesting called Mind Shift, or one that's called Sanvelo, to help track your mood. And those are interesting. I also think when you are checking in with your emotions, it's important to talk clearly. Like, it's good communication is key to strong relationships. So if you're not clear and having misunderstandings, it's because you're stressed and you're not trying. You don't know where you're at. You're trying to figure it out. You've got like a cloud in your brain, so it's causing you to miscommunicate, and then that's where the relationship friction starts.
The bad friction, not the good kind.
Right. So, we like to say when you're trying to communicate with your partner and your loved ones, make sure you use the I statements to express your feelings and thoughts. I am feeling this, to be clear about what you mean. I do this. Programs like our program, actually Speak to Connect, can help improve your communication with your partner. We have a program that's called, Speak to Connect. We're just launching and we're super excited about it, that talks about communication models. So if you are just in the minor, like you're interested in brain health and mental health, but you want to take it to the next level with your partner, the Speak to Connect program is a pretty quick way to understand your partner's communication model so that you guys are on the top level of communicators out there. I think it's like the top 1% of people out there using, and couples using this model out there. But it's owned by incredible organizations. Owned meaning the companies have figured it out, like Pixar and NASA and BMW and Coca-Cola and L'Oreal. I mean, these companies are amazing that are using the same model. So we've just tailored the model to make it for couples to help improve their relationships. But the other thing is you really want to build emotional strength together. That's another reason why it matters, is tough times can test your relationship, and that can also break your relationship. So I think it's important to be emotionally strong, and you can't get emotionally strong if you're not getting the help or you don't know what you need.
Yeah, and if you don't have a working model and some understanding, right, you need tools to build a house. You need tools to build an incredible relationship. And just expecting that there won't be tension is unrealistic, because in a true love, right, like ours, you have this dynamic tension. And it's like the string and the kite. When they're disconnected from each other, the kite flies away and the string lies on the ground and you don't have anything. But the dynamic tension is what allows the relationship to soar. And understanding that the tension isn't a bad thing, the stress isn't a bad thing, and that you're not against each other. When something comes up, we're not fighting each other. We're fighting with each other against whatever it is, whether it's well, I could use a lot of examples, but I hope you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's absolutely true. I mean, there are so many things that can help you get in a better mental place with your partner. Doing things like exercise, practicing meditation, totally switching your brain, like doing cold water therapy. I've heard has been an incredible switch of the brain when you are frustrated and you're just like, hey, dip yourself in the cold water. That changes everything for the next 3 minutes. Cold water baths.
Pattern interrupts is a great way
to
just change your state, like boom, boom, boom.
Pattern interrupts. Going for a drive, getting out for a walk, listening to different music, having a conversation with a friend, like anything like that. There's apps like Headspace and Calm that can help guide you into building emotional resilience. And that's really important.
When you have an emotional impact, when something happens, right, people just believe what they see is going on in front of them. But what they don't see is that they can see it differently, in the snap of a finger. And so if you don't have those tools, right, in your front of your mind, if you don't practice them, you're always going to be caught in the same rut. You'll be triggered. And
yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I like Oprah has a saying about, she has this, I think it's called, I want to say like a kitchen cabinet that she opens, and everything in there is the people that she relies on to call on for support, her mental health, her support groups, her books, her meditation apps. Like that is her place that she goes when she's struggling. And even endurance athletes or Olympic athletes, they're going to reach out also. They're going to understand that they need to take a break. We were just watching a show with Simone Biles called, I think it was called Rising, actually. So talk about Embers Rising. Rising and her journey, and what a strong, incredible position to be in with your mind to say no to finishing Tokyo, knowing that she could injure herself even worse, no matter the backlash. I think that is incredible to put a pause. It's a stronger, more resilient space to be in for yourself when you can say no to things that may injure you further and take control of yourself. Because when you're going down that road, you're feeling out of control. You're going from 0 to 100 in feelings. And now what's the next step? I know yesterday when I was feeling really bummed out about these injuries that I was like, all right, I have tools in my toolbox. Let's hit up my apps that I love. Let's sit and meditate. Let's get in a bath. Let's calm down. Let's see where I can shift. Let's do things that'll support my mental health today, because I am challenged and I am frustrated, so.
And all positive
All
mental
positive.
interrupts, right? And then a lot of people default to some very negative types of pattern interrupts, and so they head toward the bottle or drugs
Other
or
addictions. Yeah.
violence or something else, which obviously, does not do anything to help you get better. It keeps you spiraling down.
At the
and
same
getting
time,
worse.
I've been listening to some stories out there. I won't name names because I've seen them out there on my social channels of some of you having activity addiction, and you having to show up every day, and that can also not be great for you. It's a balance. There's days that you just need to take time off, and relax and be with yourself. It's okay. If you feel like, Dave and I are in that gym every day, but there's days where we just don't do anything but stretch.
For sure.
Or we don't do anything that's like yoga. So it's not every day we're pumping iron in there and getting this incredible workout, or, hitting incredible 2 4-hour runs or 3-hour bike rides, 5-hour bike rides. We're not. We are toggling that into our training for bigger adventures that we have planned, but we're also recognizing where we're at, recognizing that, and taking the time off. That's so important. So the other thing I was going to say, it's really important to talk about your mental health, like with other people, so that you don't feel alone. It's okay to tell your friends, hey, look, I'm really trying to manage my mental health, and I feel like, I need, XYZ. I need to have some time off or take this day off. So I think that's really important. And the other thing,
it's important that the challenge there is so many people have a hard time articulating it, that you may be talking to someone who secretly is having a challenge and they don't know how to respond or to actually communicate the fact that they're in the same space.
and you might be embarrassed to say the word a psychologist or, a counselor, because I think when you say the word mental health is known, it's more well known today when you say it, because you may feel embarrassed, like, hey, I have a counseling session or have a psychologist session. It makes you feel like others, maybe you feel embarrassed to tell your friends that you have. But when you can say, hey, I have a mental health wellness appointment, it's a different way to say it. And it just sounds like you're taking control for yourself and you're leveling up. We have heard great things about apps like BetterHelp and Cerebral. And I think Simone Biles uses Cerebral for her mental health check-ins. So those are a couple of apps that you can also check out.
And we've used BetterHelp before.
We have used BetterHelp.
And we use it sort of prophylactically, not because we're
It's
having
our oil
a problem.
change.
Yeah, but just so that we can have a little tune-up, talk about some things with a third party. It was a little strange the last time we did one. The lady was having some challenges in her relationship, and I think in the third session she broke down crying and was asking us for help.
Which kind of got turned the
which
other
was
way.
an interesting conversation. Although she still billed us, we should have billed her.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what communication and community is all about.
Managing stress together in a relationship is huge. So high stress can hurt you both and your mental health. So it's really important to help make both of you not so irritable and distant. Because the big thing, like, you're going one direction, I'm going another. We don't want that. We want to make sure that we're in tune. That can so happen when you're going to bed at night with your partner and you can't even remember when the last time you actually really kissed. It was just more of like a kiss on the cheek goodnight. It's like, whoa, where is this relationship going? I mean, really check in. So
you don't want to turn into roommates.
Right. You don't. And that really ties us into our next episode. I have to give you one more, though. Our next episode, I'm just looking, Dave, is going to be about balancing passion and partnership. Super fired up about that. But I do want to share one other thing about what we do to help manage stress together is practicing stress relief techniques, like take deep breathing exercises, use apps like Calm and Breathe and Headspace and the meditation apps. Mind Valley has a ton of free meditation apps. The Tapping Solution, highly recognized by Tony Robbins. Incredible ways to help manage stress daily and just using those, even if it's 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, set your goal and jump on it.
Yeah, I love the Mind Valley stuff. There is a single meditation that Vishen offers, and it's on YouTube for free, and it's called the 6 Phase. And if you're struggling with what we talked about earlier, like some anger, hatred, revenge, some incident that you feel wounded, and hurt, that particular meditation is really helpful in helping to maybe settle some of those feelings and get a different perspective on it.
For sure. Yeah.
So 6-phase meditation, go to YouTube.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and you can also download their app. The Mind Valley app has a bunch of free meditations in there for you. So anyway, wrapping this up, we've given you practical advice and action steps to take. Did we miss anything, Dave?
No, I wanted to drop one more thing before we close here. And it's something that is, sometimes I forget to think about it, but it's a Zen concept and it's called Shoshin. Literally translated from Chinese means the beginner's mindset, right? And it's that mindset where you don't believe that you know it all. And so you're always constantly learning and growing. And that has served me really well, right? And that's why I decided at this age to become a brain health coach. And we're doing a couple of other things that our group around us are like, really? You're going back to school to learn things? And we're continually learning new things. I just started running this year. So that was I'm going through my Shoshin moments with that, not being able to run a single mile, without stopping at the beginning of the year. And now we're banging out 20-mile runs. And I still stop and walk because that's why we picked trail running. There's a lot of walking uphill.
Well, David liked the snacks too.
Yeah, and if there's any sort of animal, I'm like dead in my tracks with my camera
Animals
out.
and snacks, we're on. But anyway, that's cool. I do want to wrap this up because I know this is going a long episode, and I just want to say thank you for joining us. As a reminder, if you could rate us on Spotify, that would be amazing. And if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be awesome. We would love to see your comments. Also, we are moving our Embers Rising podcast to its own dedicated YouTube channel. So please check us out and hit the subscribe button. We know a lot of you want to listen to the Embers Rising or watch it on YouTube so you can see us. Just make sure you look for Embers Rising podcast on YouTube as we're getting ready to launch that, and all the episodes will be there for you. And we would love your comments in there because we'd love to give you some shout outs. So please follow us on social media, and always watch for any updates on my website, wendyj.com. You can always check out any updates that we have there as things are changing. Final thoughts, Dave?
No, I'm good.
I guess as we wrap up today's episode, we just want to remind you that caring for your mental health and nurturing your relationship kind of go hand in hand. The small steps in the things that we discussed today make a huge difference in building your resilient mind and stronger connections with each other. So every positive change, no matter how big or small, moves you closer to a healthier, happier life. So keep prioritizing your well-being, stay connected, and keep the flame burning bright. Aloha.
Aloha.